All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So a year ago, I made a video on how to level up fast in this game and how much XP can you actually get by stacking all the XP buffs. And so I took a screenshot from my old video last year, and I kind of want to see how true this is today, and are there any things we can add to it? So this list is basically all the important stuff you can have. On the right side is stuff that is limited and or you could buy it with pearls. So it's not something that you have constantly, but the stuff on the left side are ones you probably have a ton of. The right side is just kind of limited or extra. And I made sure not to include things that are like event ones where you only have like one or two of them, just because that just, you can't stack them for too long or they overlap. So I made sure to make sure things that stack are good and the ones that don't stack are not included. So let's talk about this again and see what it's all about. So let's start over, and when we look at this, the combat book, if you don't know what the combat book is, it is this thing right here. These thingies, so the sealed books that I have never actually bought one for myself. All of these are from events, like playing the seasonal servers and everything. So you just kind of get them. And at least here on the NA server, I think you can actually just buy them. Yeah, they just, like, there's not a lot, but you can just buy them off the market. And I think those are, decent. And before we get too further into it, I want to say that for all of you new players out here, generally your level itself is less relevant. And I know in other games, people grind to max level, get the best gear and everything. However, in Black Desert, I do believe that grinding for silver and or like treasure items is worth a lot more in value than your level. And I think as a new player, getting to level 60 should be your entry point. Up to like 62, 63 to max out your passives is, nicer to have. And then anything after that is just kind of a small stat bonus, which is less relevant. So if you're grinding in this game, unless your goal is to be like leaderboard top level and everything, it's better to grind for silver and or like things you actually want instead of levels, because past 66 is when there's like I wouldn't say it's like a hard cap, because there are definitely people almost pushing 70, but those are rare. 66 is when it gets like very time consuming. So anyway, with that said, we have the yellow scrolls, and if you don't know, I'll show you right here. A good tip for all of you guys is use your family inventory. Now, I understand that they don't give you a lot of them by default, and a lot of the slots are paid from the Pearl Shop, but I do think this is one of those things that is worth the investment, because if you play multiple characters, have multiple tags and everything, then, it's probably good to keep them. So, the scrolls that I have here, this is, well, there's one that you can get every day. The life skill scroll or the XP 200. That you can combine together. The yellow 600 scroll is when you combine 3 of those 200% into one. Basically, it's like 3 days worth in one. So that's one of them. And the next one is the blessed scroll right here. And this is, honestly, I think this is the one that they give you in seasons and just like random events. So it's kind of limited, but like you still have a lot of them. And then the combat XP 300% scroll. Now this one does not stack with the 530, so that's why I didn't add them both together. So it's like you use the 530 or the 300, but the 200 blessed scroll does stack with one of the two. So we just added that one. That's another 200%. Next we have the lightstone combination. So if you don't know, it is the lightstone combo right here, where you just add 4 extra combat XP, 25% times 4 is 400, and then you get the set effect of another 300, so 400% total. This is actually a very good one that I would recommend to beginners and people who are playing their first character, just trying to get all the stats and like skills and everything up early. This is definitely an entry level one, and it'll just help you progress through the game super quickly, and it's cheap, so that's one good reason for that. Next thing we have is cron meals. These are super cheap on the market. I would recommend everyone to get them. Cron meal for XP is 20%. Which one is it? Yeah, this one right here, the simple cron meal. And generally, I would say about 90% of players will probably be using the simple cron meal or grinding. And we talked about the difference between the simple cron meal and exquisite. There's no right or wrong answer. It really just depends on where you're grinding and what you're actually doing. But I think for a majority of people that the simple cron meal is just, you know, overall better because it gives extra AP against monsters and it has more stuff that you would need while grinding. Whereas the exquisite is used for more specific situations and or more PvP side of it. But there's no right or wrong answer. If you use exquisite for PvE grinding, that's cool too. But I think like in terms of min-max level and everything, simple cron meal is just straight up better. Now we have the beast draft, and this one is the brown potion, and it's just another 20% XP. If you're grinding, realistically, you're probably going to be using a frenzy instead of a beast. It also depends on where you're grinding, but like a majority of people will probably be using frenzies over beasts. But if you're grinding like a lower end spot that you don't need the frenzy and you're already way over capped the AP area, the extra 8 combat XP is worth more than the AP if you're way over capped. So yeah, that's like one of those things that you just add another 20% to. I would probably use this more for beginners and you're like, let's say you're leveling up a seasoned character instead of like grinding at a high end. So that's just a bonus 20%. Also keep in mind, all of these numbers are additive and not multiplicative. So you probably see on the screen that's like almost 3,000%. That's let's say a grind spot is 100% plus all your buffs, not multiplying. That would be stupid crazy. And the next thing we have is the Kydex crystals. Now it has 200% plus, and the reason why we have that is because not all the crystals are the same. So if we look over here in our crystal chart, there's Kydex crystals that give 20% or 20%. These are the new ones that most people will get now from playing seasons. And then there's like the 10% ones, though I don't use them, but I think I might have some. Let me just double check to see if I still have some old ones. What are these called? Oh yeah, these are the old ones back in the day if you've played years ago. It is these ones. And these used to give 10%. And these are what you got from seasons. And then they upped it like through time. And now it's 20%. So it's an extra 10% more. So when we look at this and our chart over here, we look at the combat XP and it's like 375. Keep in mind, this is with a gear ins tier, so this is if you want max. But if you don't have a gear ins tier, you just minus the extra 75% and you put in another resplendent crystal, and that'll be like 300-ish. So yeah, that's up to 200 if you have the older crystals, which I don't think most people will do, especially if you are a newer player. You're only getting the newer crystals, but so yeah, keep in mind this video is old now. So that's why I put 200% plus. I think that's on the lower side, but if you are like maxed out and have all the best ones, probably around 375. So we can add that up. Now, next we have church buffs. If you don't know what it is, let me go show you real quick where you can obtain church buffs yourself. So in every town, there's a church buff vendor. And if you don't know how to find it, you could click the little magnifying glass, and then there's a little church buff vendor icon. So you talk to this person over here, and let me just buy it just to show you. So there's the attack, protection, and experience. You want to buy the experience one, and this one gives you an extra 15% for 2 to, I think, 5 hours, depending on how long you grind. So that's another bonus 15% right here. And then the Black Spirit buff is the one you would get from the Black Spirit, obviously. You just buy the one you want. So the difference is 30 minutes versus an hour. It's kind of the same thing, but 20%. And that's always nice. I used to do that, but like I think I would use the energy on like anything else but that, but it really depends. If you don't life skill at all, then you might as well just pop it on XP. So Black Spirit buff is another 20%. Tent buff is another 10%. We all know what that is from the grinding. The like the orange buff. And then the combat scroll is 300. I believe that's what we talked about over here. So the combat and skill XP. You actually get a lot of these from seasons. I have like 240 of them. And these do not combine with the 530 scroll. And it tells you that in the tooltip. But, so like you have to pick either 530 or 300. I used 300 because like these are limited to 530s. They only give it out like once a year. And like if you don't grind a lot, you probably have them. But if you do, then, you know, cool. You're probably going to have more of these than the 530s anyway. So let's go into the extras of the right side of this things. Now, these are very limited. And like once you run out, you're probably not getting them for quite a while. So yeah, we talked about the 530 scroll being like yearly limited. So once you use up like all of them, wait till next year. That's why I didn't want to add it into the regular set. The Spirit Stone 50% is the one you get from seasons. Now, this one is actually, it's cool. Like, it's the Spirit Stone that everyone gets. Like, I think maybe 2 or 3 of them a season. I think it's 2. But this is actually just good for beginners who are leveling up. And, you know, I think this is a good entry-level stone. 50% XP, extra AP against monsters and everything. Very good. The downside is you cannot recharge these. So, like, once you use all the durability, you just kind of toss it. And so that's about it. Next thing we have is the bell. The bell right here. You know, when someone pops a 1 hour buff. This is kind of a paid thing. So, like, you buy it on the Pearl Shop. I would not recommend buying these. These are kind of expensive, actually. It's like, what? Less than $20 for an hour buff. That's kind of wild, actually. It should, if you're going to charge like $20 for it, it should be like, here, you get like 20 of them. But no, it's like 20 for one. And so, like, I have one. This is what they look like. I have never bought one in my BDO career. All of them I have are literally from events. So this is what they look like. Basically, you pop a buff on the channel, gives you 100%, and that's about it. So yeah, would not recommend. It's very hard to get a permanent bell up. Like, there's very rarely do people pop bells like 24/7 on a channel. So next we have the Old Moon book, which is this thingy right here that gives you another 100%. This is a Pearl Shop item, and sometimes they give it away from events every now and then. And like, it's these books. I always said, if you've ever watched my Pearl Shop video, that if you were to buy only one thing, like, it would be value pack. Like, if you're going to spend $15 or something, it would be value pack. Next would be the Secret Book of Old Moon, followed by the Blessing and Commissylve. But it also really depends. I think the Secret Book of Old Moon is generally more useful because it allows you to buy, like, you know, tent buffs and the ability to change add-ons freely, buy, like, Villa Scrolls. It's worth so much more than the Blessing and Commissylve. The item drop rate, 20% from the Blessing, it's nice and all. But, like, when you have an event on, it's so easy to overcap the 300+%. And the extra storage weight transport limit, it's kind of irrelevant these days just because, you know, just nowadays they made transporting goods and stuff a lot easier, and everyone just has a higher weight limit. And, you know, you just don't need it as much. The extra central market capacity, that can be managed very easily. Transaction made volume limit plus 100%. Once again, not as relevant if people know how to horse stack your trash loot and everything. Energy recovery is kind of nice if you're a life skiller. Drop rate is probably the main reason people buy those. But I think just overall day-to-day usage, I think the Secret Book of Old Moon is just straight up better in, like, every way. And then the night buff, you know, literally a day and night system in this game. If you grind at night, things are stronger, but they also give an extra 50% bonus. You could check that when, like, it's nighttime and grind for yourself. The weekend bonus. On the weekend, they usually give, I think it's like 200% now. Back in the day, it used to be 100. I'm not 100% sure. I don't really check it, but it used to be 100. I think nowadays, on average, it's just straight up across the board, like a 200, but that could be wrong. So that's why I said 1 to 200 in there. And costume and guild buff. As you guys know, if you have a costume on, you get the extra 10% combat bonus. Yeah, I mean, I think most people just use the costume because they like it. That's straight up. Like, that 10% is kind of irrelevant. And even if you're a free-to-play player, you probably got all these boxes just from doing things in the game. And then they give, like, literally outfits out for free every now and then if you're a player. So, yeah, that's one of those things. It's not really a big deal. I wouldn't buy an outfit just because you want the XP. I'd buy an outfit because you like it. And then there's the guild buff, as we all know, right here in the game, just like item drop rate and then combat XP. So this actually is one thing that did get changed, and they got like super buffed to like 200% now. And back in the day when the guild effects were different, it was only 20%. Now it's 200, so that got multiplied. And so if we look at the totals, it's probably well over 3,000% now, just by various changes. And so I'm pretty sure there are more like buffs that we can have, but this is also one of the things that wasn't in the game back then. The Undying Crow's insignia, you get them by doing the Pit of Undying, and this is a permanent one that I've actually wanted to talk about. So if you first start, you'll get the Pry one, and then you just keep doing it daily, and then you eventually take the test, and then you keep going all the way up to Pen, up to 30%. Now, you know how they gave us all those like class insignia boxes, right? I see people using them, but I wouldn't use them on your main. If you put it on an ult or something, cool. But the class insignia box gives 10% combat XP, right? Now, the pen one gives up to 30%, and once again, they're additive, so 10% and 30%. Will it make a difference? Probably not. But, yeah, it's the difference between 10 and 30%. Everything else, these are like limited events and just like 10% buffs, but I don't count those just because, you know, you probably get it once every year, and there's just other event XP stuff. I wonder if I could just search XP. There's EXP elixirs. I think you still get more by using a draft straight up. And yeah, I think that's really it. Like, there's probably a few that are missing, but all of these are the notable ones that I wanted to talk about. So yeah, nowadays, I just wanted to say, if you were looking at this once again and you're like, oh, 3,000% plus, just keep in mind, most of these, especially on the right side of things, like the bell, if you're free to play and you don't have the Old Moon book, or if you're grinding during the daytime, just across the board, it's not the weekend. A lot of these buffs do not overlap consistently. So yes, you can get a lot of XP when you're grinding, but realistically, keeping all of these buffs up for more than an hour is very difficult. And I think on average, you could probably get a lot of this stuff on the left side of the chart more than the right side, and especially since some of them don't even overlap and stack effects either. So yeah, that's one of those things where I think it's more realistically to add up probably around like maybe 2,000-ish%, if assuming everything is going right, for maybe an hour or two. But just realistically, you're not going to have all these buffs going on at the same time. That's just like hard min-maxing how much can you actually get. And then whenever they have that 1,000% XP bonus event, that's like, what, maybe twice a year. Yeah, that goes even higher. So I just thought that was cool to share with you guys. No one asked for it, but I thought it was just some random information, just in case now you know. And yeah, that's about it. So thanks so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I'd love to see you guys come back. I make videos for new players, beginners, returning players, and people who are just looking to get better at this game. I've been playing BDO for probably about 8 years now. And I just like to share all the information that I've gotten throughout the game with you all, and hopefully you enjoy it. So with that said, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. Peace.